For fans of Sesame Street, many will think of Elmo or Bert or even Cookie Monster when they imagine anything remotely sinister in the show, ignoring one of the most recent and dangerous elements of the show, Zoe. Zoe, a seemingly harmless creature, is in fact a demon, one of which successfully emerged with Sesame Street, transforming what once a childhood dream into a nightmare. I know this because I had the misfortune of watching an episode of Sesame Street, which was never aired to the public. An episode which would never would have been seen at all if it not had been pirated and leaked onto the web. The episode has moved across the web in varied forms, being shut down several times, but cropping up again in new websites or accounts. The quality always pretty terrible, but still giving an insight to the horrors that I saw. The first sign that the episode was unusual was a total lack of the iconic Sesame Street song, just a close up of the dirty sign reading Sesame Street, the letters fading into the sign itself, looking as if it was going to fall off at any point. The scene then broke into static, burst, and that made me jump, disappearing to reveal Elmo in his blanket. Elmo was sitting on his bed, holding his blanket and crying. His red fur seemed to be falling out, and he kept his head buried in the blanket as he trembled uncontrollably. Another static burst and broke the scene, disappearing to reveal Zoe in the room with Elmo. The two engaged in a tug of war with the blanket, Elmo yelling at Zoe to stop while she yelled back at Elmo to shut up. The intensity of the argument was very off for what was such a light-hearted show, and despite both being puppets, there was an unmistakable malice in the way they tugged and pulled, their voices loud and frightening, in the stark contrast to how they normally were. Yet another static burst and broke into the scene before disappearing, this time revealing Zoe and Elmo engaged in what looked like a physical confrontation. Zoe was choking and slamming Elmo against the ground repeatedly as Elmo yelled out, "Stop it, Zoe, stop!" Then, without warning, Zoe stopped, Elmo now below the camera and out of view. Zoe looked straight into the camera with unblinking eyes. It was at this point I felt hairs on the back of my neck rise and a shiver run down my spine as she spoke directly to the audience. Zoe doesn't want to play anymore. The static burst once again and broke the scene, and before I could quite react, I was greeted to a blank screen, deciding I was either crazy or someone had played a joke on me. I tried to rewind the clip and played it. The screen remained black, but I heard Zoe's voice crystal clear despite the black screen. Zoe doesn't want to play anymore. And that, my pretties, was Zoe Doesn't Want to Play Anymore, a Sesame Street creepypasta written by Evil Eye. My final thoughts on this story? Okay. I definitely do need to say is that despite the beginning, which wasn't really the best beginning, I will say, but I mean, the beginning could have been better, but maybe that's just me. But overall, I thought this story was actually decent. I mean, it's not a bad Sesame Street creepypasta. I will say, it's not a bad creepypasta. I mean, I do say that the story could have, have a little more added, like an explanation as to why this episode was not aired on, TV, which it could have been, that could have helped out more. But this story wasn't that bad. I personally thought this was a pretty, decent Sesame Street creepypasta. I mean, not the best Sesame Street creepypasta in the world, but I do need to sit here and say, as I have seen some other Sesame Street creepypastas that were not good, they were cliched or something like that. Well, I didn't mind this one. This one was actually not that bad. I personally thought this was a really interesting concept. I personally really do like the concept of the story. I thought this was, interesting, the grammar was good, I will say. Basically, I mean, there could have been, there were a few punctuation errors in the story, and I did notice a few grammatical errors, but I personally didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was a pretty interesting story. Now, it involved, Zoe going nuts and killing Elmo. Like, oh my god, like, oh geez. I mean, there was no. I don't know what the reason was for Zoe to go that insane, but maybe maybe somebody could maybe clarify that. But overall, I didn't think this was a really bad story. I thought it was pretty good for what it was. So there was that. I definitely do need to sit here and say was that it's a really interesting concept. However, it was a pretty messed up story. I mean, not really so messed up, but still. But I personally do think that this story actually, had a really good going for, the throughout the story. So that's why I say this story was a decent one. I mean, not the best story in the world, but it definitely wasn't terrible. So I definitely do wish that the story could have had more explanation as to why Sesame Street didn't, air this episode, and why, how it was pirated or leaked online. I mean, I really wish there could have been explanations for those, but unfortunately that's not the case with this story. But I really do wish that it really helped out. So I really do need to sit here and say is that I really wish that it could have more info on that, but like I said, it's really hard to say if we'll ever get that. But the story wasn't that bad. I mean, it could have been better, I will say, but it's definitely not bad. I mean, it's definitely not a bad story. I personally didn't mind this story. I thought it was really good. It had, well, I said it was, decent. It was an alright Sesame Street story. It wasn't really the best, but it wasn't terrible, I will say. But I know I have seen other Sesame Street stories that managed to do better, but that's just that. But anyways, I guess with that being the case and with that being said, this story, well, I personally thought this was a pretty good one. I mean, decent one that is. So, I guess with that being said, and that being the case, like I'm always just gonna say, this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with it, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these stories. This is simply my own personal thoughts. I'm gonna give this one I'll give this one a 6 out of 10. While it was a decent Sesame Street creepypasta, I will say, I mean, the beginning wasn't really that satisfying, but I really wish could have, have more explanation and it could have been better. But this was not a bad Sesame Street story. I mean, yeah, I mean, the static cliche was present in it, and I really wish there would have been more explanation as to why the things happen in this story, but maybe that's just me. But, I'm just giving out my opinion. But anyways, with that being said and that being the case, what did you guys personally think of this story? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm Shadow the Lion Queen. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and if you're new to my channel, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. As always, if you guys want to go follow me on Blue Sky, follow me on DeviantArt, follow me on Steam, follow me on Instagram, follow me on DeviantArt, follow me pretty much on Twitter, and follow me on my socials, as links to all those will be in the About page section, so that way you guys will keep up to date with me and stuff. And if you guys, have any thoughts or opinions you want to share on this story, let me know what they are in the comments. So as always, I'll be seeing you guys all in the next video. Peace out. And like always, roll the outro because I'm out. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, Ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Ms. Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.